with that said, now we're going to have a presentation, a recorded presentation from founding engineer Tomas Ohlson from Einride. So just film time, enjoy.
Hi everyone, I'm here to talk about how to solve one of the biggest challenges we have. 7% of global CO2 emissions, that's how much road freight stands for, of the total global CO2 emissions. And that's something we need to solve, and we need to solve it quickly. And at Einride, that's our focus, and it's been from the very beginning. We are focusing on solving this $2 trillion market. By 2023, at the current rate, it's going to be a $3.3 trillion market. And that means a huge CO2 footprint if it would still use diesel. But the mission is also more than that. We want zero emissions, zero waste, and zero traffic death. That's what we can achieve with the systems we're making. And besides that, about that market size, I'll get back to that. So, I'm Thomas, and now I'll show you where I'm at today. I'm the founding engineer at Einride. Been building many of the systems throughout. Been here from the very beginning. And I'm currently presenting from our garage. This here, you see behind me, it's an older version of a pod. And I'm currently presenting from a track chassis. And it's a pretty big place. We have a few more, but I think it's a great way to get the point across that this stuff is here and the change is happening now. So that's a little bit what we're going to talk about today, but also a bunch other things, of course. Really about the business case that's driving the change of how logistics looks like by 2033. So, back to the presentation. Whip, and that's not the right one. This is the right tab. Right. So, zero traffic death. The things I'm going to go through today is the road freight system of 2033, as I said. And there will be a new ecosystem. Many of the actors are still around, but they're having different roles. And of course, there's a huge opportunity for them. But then you kind of have to see what's coming to be ready to take the tremendous opportunity that's available in that. So, also talking about the business model and how it changed. But it really is a new infrastructure and a new ecosystem that's growing right now. And you can already see some signs of it, but they're just going to get clearer along the way. So, to get there, there's a huge amount of work. And for the CO2 sakes, there's not a lot of time, clearly. So what you can see right here is the way we at Einride see ourselves scaling towards that. But it's not really only about ourselves. This is also kind of the general market approach, the way we see it. And I think you'll find that many others agree. Currently, there's a huge digitization effort going on in the logistics industry. You've seen the Uber Freights of the world, Convoy, Cargo X in Europe. There's quite a few, but the transition will happen gradually. As you can see, we kind of have the normal S-curves. And the way we see this, right now, we're helping our customers become digitized. Because if you want electric heavy transport, it's going to work a little bit different than what we have today. Because when you're planning electrical freight, you have the battery to think about. And all the planning decisions you have to take, they have to include the state of the battery. So while going places, you will need to know beforehand if the charging infrastructure is available, what other trucks you have in the same vicinity that would potentially use it, and other circumstances around this. So planning is super important, but if you're going to be able to plan, you will need lots of data about your current flows, and you'll need time series, so basically everything, from who's putting it inside the truck, what's being put there, what's the weight of that, and how, like, when are you supposed to leave, when you're supposed to get there to the next dock, and who take care of the things. So some of this is done by pen and paper today, but it's necessary that it's done by digitized means for the future, because otherwise the planning is just not possible. You can have small scale systems with electric, but it's going to be expensive because you're going to put in a lot of time, human time, to plan this. But anyway, as soon as you have this digitized system, you can start deploying autonomous or just electric trucks, manned electric trucks, which we're doing right now with many of our customers. And that's the first part in getting to the next step, where you can start replacing some of the flows where it makes sense with autonomous trucks. But you're always going to need these manned trucks as a complement to the autonomous trucks, because they're not going to be able to do everything for quite a while. Kind of the level 5 is far away. Yeah, to continue, the ecosystem of the 2020s looks like this right now, where you kind of have the OEMs in one part, and you have logistics companies on the other side. And both of these are trying to squeeze into the middle, or at least to each other's side, really. So the OEMs, they are trying to sell services as well, but if they try to sell services, they are competing with their own customers. And their main revenue driver is financial services to the owner-operators, which consist about 87% of the market. And yeah, competing with your customers is not a great approach. Another part, of course, of their current revenue is selling spare parts, because diesel vehicle, well, they're kind of a rough thing, so lots of spare parts. When it comes to logistics companies, they're selling to the shippers, which has the actual need. And they are to some extent trying to squeeze towards the OEMs. You've seen Arrival, you've seen Amazon buying stakes of Rivian and other kind of van manufacturers, and also looking into heavy freight manufacturers. So that's kind of currently happening. But there is an issue here, because if you would start having autonomous vehicles, well, then it becomes kind of complicated, because, well, the owner operators, which is kind of the core of the way the market is structured right now, just won't be there in the same way. So the system would need to change. And in the next system, which I'm gonna show now, these partners are still around, but I'm gonna show you a simplified version of what's coming next. This is 2033. To begin with, why it says manufacturers there is, if you don't have the OEMs, well, or if you don't have the owner operators in the same way anymore for a lot of the flows, then the dynamics becomes a bit different. Because, well, in our company, we know a lot about the underlying platform, and we probably want to dig down a little bit deeper than the OEMs wants to. And what's good about that is that you can start standardizing a lot more, because today a lot of the trucks, they have lots of variations. Not a truck guy, but I've heard anything up to 12,000 variations of a given model, which is a lot. And that's a really complicated kind of build. So it's impressive what they're doing today. But hopefully, when you have customers who can learn to take data-driven decisions and give feedback also to the manufacturers about what you're doing, you can get kind of another pattern. But I think one of the foremost things I want to be talking about for this picture is that we think that it's possible that the market develops towards a similar approach to the Amazon Web Services and Google Clouds of today. And the similarities here, you can see quite a few. And what Amazon Web Services and etc. similar services are doing is really that they're letting their customers have the possibility to automate everything about the digital infrastructure. And we think that the same is true here, because if you can't automate everything, then you can't really take the kind of data-driven decision that you want to in a fully automated system. So we think that companies who's going to be supplying shippers and other customers in the ecosystem, they will need to be able to abstract the logistics systems to such an extent that you can basically talk to them through APIs, where you can take fully automated data-driven decisions. And still, even with Einride or similar companies here, there's going to be flows that doesn't really fit. There's going to be the last few percentage, in Amazon Web Services, for example, they have this Glacier service where they put hard drives in a truck and drive them across the country or across the continent and physically move these. And that's going on. And the only thing you can see in your API is, oh, the data is being shipped. I think it's coming in soon. It says that it's loading for some reason. And that might be that the truck is also actually shipped. But that's the whole point. You can automate the platform and you can separate the concerns of logistics. Maybe even similar to the way you build software right now, where you can have different teams working independent of each other. The infrastructure is solved in a scalable way, and you could get the instances you need. And in this case, you can get the particulars of the logistics flows that you need for your automated service. And because logistics is going to be, there's going to be more stuff moved in the future. So there's just going to be more headaches to worry about, and that's why you need automation. Another part of this that I mentioned before is that the market size won't actually be this big anymore. So it might be a lot smaller, because the thing here with Einride, what's driving our revenue? Well, that's diminishing costs. I'm going to get back into that soon, but what it means is that the market can actually be significantly smaller. But again, inside this, you will have still carriers will have a role. There's going to be maintenance of things, but the dynamics between the different parts is going to be different, as I've been talking about. So what it really comes down to is the economy. And this is the kind of business case we're looking at for autonomous electric vehicles, AET, autonomous electric trucks at maturity. And that's by the end of the decade. And this is actually quite kind of a conservative case. By the way, for you who don't know, IC is internal combustion engines that would give you these trucks and such. But again, a conservative case. There is actually a chance that we get to 1/4 of this. That's kind of the range we're talking at. And if you look at the price point where it's this or 1/4, you can start calculating what's the return on investment of changing to autonomous electric transport. It's quite fast. You can get your money back quite fast. And that's what disruptive changes are about, that you have a disruptive price change, which enables you to have a fast shift in the way things are currently working, because the economy drives that. And this is also why you have lots of investment in electric freight right now. Batteries are going to get better. They're going to be able to handle more flows. And another thing, of course, is even for the long haul flows, it really comes down to infrastructure if you don't have drivers, because then you can have infinite range as long as you can plan ahead of the stops you need to do along the way. So another part of this that I'm not going to go into is that me personally don't really believe in the hydrogen cells, because hydrogen itself just has this huge energy deficit along the different steps that you need to do in order to get it. From what I understand, the business case of, for example, a company like Nikola is actually that you need negatively priced solar energy to produce the hydrogen power right now, at least. And that's probably going to change in the future. It's going to be better, but I think the issue is that batteries are going to get better faster. And if we could have a world running on similar technologies, we can have an enormous kind of direction and scale and research effort going into similar technologies, which can make a huge difference for all the industries at once. So I think that's a great thing. This is kind of the cost change we're looking at. You can see that ICE is going to go down a little bit better than this. Here it's just straight, which is the black line. But the autonomous electric trucks will just have a significant price difference. And that's really what's driving change. So I think what's super clear here is that there is opportunity for Green New Deal. Sure, with the kind of American way where you have government subsidies, which they're talking about right now for their Green New Deal, things can move faster, but the base economy will just make this happen anyway. So government subsidies or not, it's gonna happen. It's just, if you look at fuel costs, they're gonna be half, even including battery wearage, when you move over to electricity. If you look at driver's time, we're accounting about 90% reduction at maturity, where you still have about 10% remote driving for certain situations. If you look at the chassis and basically the rest of it, if you remove the cab and the gearbox and engine, you remove about 85% of the complexity of the vehicle. And 85%, that's of course a lot of complexity, which you can lose. And that drives down cost significantly. So that's kind of the business case that everybody's chasing. The issue, of course, that some of the current partners in this ecosystem are kind of locked into needing to produce the better engine to beat their competitors. But then again, you have examples like Volvo Cars, who said that we're going to have some rushed decisions to take. We have a lot of development that a lot of effort we put into the current ecosystem we have. And if we're just going to move over to electric, that's going to cost us a lot of money. But we're going to take that decision either way. And I think that's kind of a decision you need other companies to take as well, because we need to make this change happen quite fast. Otherwise, yeah, you know the consequences. So down to vehicles. I have this short video. This is how it currently looks when we're going at the Schenker with other autonomous trucks. We have several vehicles operating over there. And moving forward into this, you can see that we're right now at the early levels here and are moving into level 5. But when you go beyond that, what I want to talk about for the vehicles is that this is the current sensors that we have. And what you start doing after you've reached your level 5s and such is that you start removing sensors, of course, if you can see that you can still guarantee the safety, of course. And if we look at these different levels, then you could also imagine that we would have different kind of technical heights of different vehicles. If you need to go downtown San Francisco, you would need one kind of vehicle with one kind of sensor set, who is safer to go exactly there. But for other applications, maybe you need something which is a lot simpler. And that's also going to reflect itself in the cost when you're making the request to buy the logistics transport, maybe 3 months in the future, when you're doing the kind of backlog planning of your logistics needs. So vehicles may end up quite different from now. Maybe they will only have cameras because that's in the end what's necessary. But right now, you need all the different sensor modalities, because to my knowledge, nobody's deployed autonomous electric vehicles at scale. So before then, you'll still need all the sensors. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you for listening in, and looking forward to the panel.
So, bye, Thomas, from the recorded version of Thomas' presentation.